Close your eyes for a second. Picture the last time you unlocked your phone on a Friday night. No missed calls, no unread messages, no plans. Just you and the quiet hum of your own existence. Now picture what society says that means. It says you're failing. It says you're defective. It says connection is the currency of a meaningful life, and you're bankrupt. But what if society has it backwards? What if the emptiness in your inbox isn't a wound, it's a filter? What if the reason people don't stay in your orbit has nothing to do with your flaws, and everything to do with a set of rare psychological traits that most human beings simply cannot handle? I'm not here to comfort you. I'm here to decode you. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 7 uncommon psychological characteristics that explain, with precision, why your social circle is almost non-existent. These aren't feel-good labels. They're cognitive and emotional blueprints that separate you from the majority of the population. And by the end, you won't just understand your solitude, you'll respect it. But fair warning, the last trait on this list is the one that genuinely frightens people. And once you recognize it in yourself, you can never unsee it. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody talks about. The modern social world isn't built for depth. It's built for speed, for performance, for comfortable illusions. And if your mind operates on a different frequency, if you process people, conversations, and motives at a level most never reach, then the social world doesn't just feel exhausting, it feels dishonest. That's not a personality flaw, that's a signal. Today, we're going to pull apart 7 specific traits found almost exclusively in people who walk through life with a small or empty circle. For every single one, I'll show you why it develops, how it separates you from others, and most importantly, how to protect it without letting it destroy you. Because yes, there's a dark side to this, and we're covering that too. Let's get into it. Most people hear conversations. You decode them. While someone is telling you how much they care about you, your brain is cross-referencing their body language, their vocal rhythm, the 3-second delay before they answered your question last Tuesday. Cognitive scientists describe a phenomenon where certain individuals rapidly extract reliable conclusions from extremely limited behavioral data. Your mind doesn't wait for proof. It assembles micro-evidence in real time. The slight jaw clench when you share good news. The way someone's enthusiasm arrives, half a beat too late. The compliment that somehow leaves you feeling smaller. You catch all of it, and you can't turn it off. Imagine sitting at a dinner with friends. Everyone's laughing. The energy feels warm. But you notice the host keeps redirecting attention away from one guest. You notice 2 people exchange a glance after someone speaks, a glance loaded with judgment they think no one saw. You see the architecture of the social hierarchy playing out in real time, and suddenly the dinner doesn't feel warm. It feels choreographed. This is why crowds drain you, not because you're introverted, but because every social environment is an avalanche of contradictory data. People say one thing, their bodies say another, and your mind won't let the contradiction slide. The result? People sense your awareness. They can't articulate it, but they feel observed around you. And being observed is the one thing performative people cannot tolerate. So they label you. Judgmental. Standoffish. Cold. What they really mean is, you see too much, and it makes me uncomfortable. How to protect this trait? Don't weaponize it. Don't announce what you see. Simply let your observations inform your choices. Who you trust, who you invest in, who you quietly walk away from. Your perception is a compass. Use it silently. Think about the last time someone spent 20 minutes telling you about a celebrity scandal or a coworker's drama. Do you remember the sensation? Not boredom, something worse. a kind of mental suffocation, like your brain was being fed sawdust and expected to call it nutrition. Research into personality dimensions reveals that individuals scoring exceptionally high in intellectual curiosity don't just prefer deep conversation, they physiologically require it. Shallow interaction triggers genuine stress responses. Your brain treats surface-level chatter the way a starving person treats empty calories. It processes it, gets nothing from it, and ends up more depleted than before. Here's the painful part. You can't fake your way through it. You've tried. You've sat at the table nodding along while someone recounts the same recycled complaint for the fourth time. You've smiled during conversations that felt like watching paint dry on a wall you didn't choose to stare at. And every time, a part of you dies quietly. So you stopped attending. You stopped accepting invitations. Not because you think you're above anyone, but because the energy exchange is devastatingly unequal. You leave every shallow interaction running a deficit. How to protect this trait? Stop apologizing for your intellectual appetite. You don't owe anyone a performance of engagement. Seek environments where ideas are the currency. Workshops, unconventional communities, creative spaces. Your people exist. They're just not at the happy hour. Every friend group has a hidden power structure. There's an unspoken leader. There are unspoken rules. Agree with this person's opinions. Laugh at this person's jokes. Don't outshine the alpha. Don't question the group narrative. Most people navigate these invisible hierarchies instinctively. They submit without even realizing they've submitted. Studies on social conformity have demonstrated that the vast majority of people will publicly deny what their own eyes are telling them, just to remain aligned with the group consensus. You don't do this. When a group insists on a belief that contradicts logic, something in your nervous system fires a warning. Not rebellion for the sake of rebellion, but a deep, almost biological inability to perform agreement you don't actually feel. You'd rather sit in awkward silence than nod along to something you know is false. Picture this. You're in a work meeting. The team leader proposes an idea that's clearly flawed. Everyone nods, smiles. Agreement radiates through the room. You raise your hand and respectfully point out the flaw. The room freezes, not because you were wrong, but because you violated the unwritten social contract. From that moment, you're marked, not as the honest one, as the difficult one. Manipulative personalities, particularly those with narcissistic tendencies, despise people like you. They build their entire social ecosystem on compliance. Followers who validate, echo, and applaud. When you refuse to participate in that theater, you become a threat. And threats get eliminated through exclusion, gossip, or slow social suffocation. How to protect this trait? Choose your battles with surgical precision. Not every hill is worth dying on. Save your objections for moments of genuine consequence. Strategic silence is not surrender. It's conservation of energy for the fights that actually matter. Some people use friendship to pass the time. You use time to build something that will outlast the friendship. Whether it's a creative project, a business, a body of knowledge, or a physical transformation, you are consumed by a vision of what you're becoming. And that vision demands something most people refuse to pay: extended, voluntary solitude. Neuroscientific research reveals that the brain's capacity for deep, focused work and its capacity for social engagement operate on competing systems. When one activates, the other suppresses. You literally cannot construct meaningful work and maintain a vibrant social calendar simultaneously. The math doesn't work. So you made a choice, probably without even realizing it. You started declining invitations. You stopped answering texts immediately. You carved out hours, then days, then weeks for uninterrupted focus. And slowly, the invitations stopped coming. People interpreted your dedication as rejection. They took your "not tonight" as "not ever." They assumed your absence meant arrogance, when it actually meant ambition. Here's the truth about transformation. It requires dissolution. A seed doesn't sprout by staying intact. It splits open in the dark, alone, unseen. If you're in a building phase right now, the isolation isn't punishment. It's the necessary architecture of becoming. How to protect this trait? Communicate your season. You don't need to justify your process, but a brief, "I'm deep in a project right now," can preserve bridges you may want to cross later. Not every connection that fades during your building phase deserves to be burned permanently. Have you ever entered a room, said absolutely nothing, and felt someone's hostility before a single word was exchanged? Have you ever had someone target you with passive aggression and thought, "What did I even do?" You didn't do anything. Your existence did the work for them. There's a concept in depth psychology suggesting that every person carries a collection of traits they've disowned, qualities they refuse to acknowledge in themselves. When they encounter someone who embodies the courage, independence, or authenticity they've suppressed, it triggers an unconscious recognition. But instead of admiring what they see, they resent it, because your presence highlights their absence. Your self-sufficiency exposes their dependency. Your comfort in silence amplifies their internal noise. Your refusal to perform makes their own performance feel hollow. And because the human ego protects itself with ferocity, that discomfort doesn't surface as self-reflection. It surfaces as hostility toward you. They don't attack you because you're flawed. They attack you because you're a living reminder of the compromises they've made with their own identity. Many social bonds are sustained by a mutual agreement to avoid hard truths. You validate my excuses, I'll validate yours. When you refuse to participate in that exchange, when someone complains about a situation they engineered and you ask them what they plan to do about it, instead of offering sympathy, you violate the agreement. And violators get exiled. How to protect this trait? Understand that not every hostile reaction is about you. Most of it is projection. Don't absorb anger that was never yours to carry. Let their discomfort be their responsibility, not your burden. The world around you is obsessed with the present moment, the next notification, the next weekend, the next viral trend. You're operating on a completely different timeline. Your mind naturally projects forward, simulating consequences, mapping trajectories, calculating the long-term cost of short-term decisions. When your peers say, "Let's just enjoy tonight and deal with tomorrow later," your nervous system practically revolts. Because you don't see tonight in isolation. You see the chain reaction. You see the pattern forming. You see the bill that tomorrow always sends for tonight's indulgence. This forward-living consciousness is found in strategic thinkers, long-range planners, and, paradoxically, in those prone to deep anxiety. Your brain is a simulation engine, constantly running models of what comes next. And while this makes you extraordinarily capable of navigating complex futures, it makes you almost incapable of connecting with people who refuse to look past the next 72 hours. You live in a time zone that doesn't exist for most people, and you can't force someone to see a horizon they're determined to ignore. When you try to warn them about the relationship that's clearly deteriorating, about the financial habit that will eventually collapse, they don't thank you. They label you negative, pessimistic, a killjoy. Until the consequences arrive, then, suddenly, your foresight is valuable. But by then, you've learned a permanent lesson. You can't rescue people from futures they refuse to see. How to protect this trait? Balance your future orientation with deliberate present moment practices. Your ability to see ahead is a gift, but if you never land in the current moment, you'll burn through your nervous system. Ground yourself daily. The future needs you healthy when it arrives. 7. The self-generating identity. This is the trait that makes people not just confused by you, but genuinely unsettled. The vast majority of human beings construct their identity externally. They know who they are based on who notices them, who approves of them, who includes them. Remove the audience, and the identity starts to fragment. Research has shown that extended isolation causes severe psychological distress in most people, not because of physical danger, but because without external mirrors, they lose their sense of self. You don't have this problem. Your sense of identity is generated internally. You pursue interests not for recognition, but because the pursuit itself is the reward. You read because comprehension feeds something primal in you. You create because the idea demands expression, regardless of whether anyone ever witnesses it. You discipline your body or mind not for applause, but because the act of becoming stronger feels like the most honest conversation you can have with yourself. This makes you functionally immune to the primary mechanism of social control, the threat of exclusion. Every social system, from schoolyard cliques to corporate hierarchies, runs on one fundamental currency: belonging. Obey, and you're included. Resist, and you're cast out. This threat keeps nearly everyone in line, but when they aim that weapon at you, it misfires. They threaten you with solitude, and you respond with indifference, or worse, with relief. This short-circuits their entire operating system. A person who doesn't need external validation is a person who can't be leveraged, bribed, or broken through social pressure. And that, more than anything else, is why you make people uncomfortable. Not because you're antisocial, because you're uncontrollable. How to protect this trait? Guard your internal world fiercely. But don't let self-sufficiency calcify into complete isolation. Even nuclear reactors need maintenance. Schedule rare, intentional connections with people who have earned access. Total independence isn't strength. It's a different kind of prison. The goal isn't to need no one. It's to need only those who are worthy. So let's look at the full picture. You detect deception involuntarily. You starve in shallow environments. You refuse to bow to illegitimate hierarchies. You sacrifice companionship for creation. You expose people to themselves without trying. You live in a timeline no one else has reached yet. And you generate your own sense of purpose from within. That's not a broken person. That's a rare one. But here's my honest warning, and this matters more than everything I've said so far. Rarity without awareness becomes self-destruction. If you romanticize your isolation to the point where you stop reaching for genuine connection entirely, you're not protecting yourself. You're slowly starving something essential. You don't need a crowd, but you need your people, the 2 or 3 souls on this planet who operate at your frequency. They exist. They're looking for you, too. But they'll only find you if you stay visible. Keep building. Keep sharpening. Keep being impossible to ignore. Your solitude was never a sentence. It was always a selection process. And the selection isn't finished yet. If this changed the way you see yourself, leave a comment and tell me, which trait hit the hardest? I read every single one. Hit subscribe if you want more content that doesn't just scratch the surface, but goes all the way to the bone. Tap the bell so you never miss what's coming next. And share this with someone who needs to hear that their emptiness isn't a flaw. It's a frequency. I'll see you in the next one.